Every Christmas, my kitchen transforms into a gingerbread wonderland, a little messy, a lot of fun, and always filled with the smell of warm spices and laughter. I'll let you in on a little tradition. What started with one simple recipe and way too much icing has now become our family's favorite way to kick off the holiday season. Today, I'm sharing that classic gingerbread cookie recipe with you, the one we've baked for years and can't imagine Christmas without. Get ready to create something sweet that might just become a tradition in your family too. Hi, I'm Arina. Here on my channel, I share my favorite recipes and tips to make sure everything you bake looks as good as it tastes, all from my home to yours. You'll find links to the tools I use and other recipes I mention in the description below, so be sure to check them out. All right, let's jump in, and I'll show you what makes this gingerbread cookie dough come out just right every time. Ready to get started? Before we dive in, I like to start with everything measured and laid out. This keeps the whole baking process smoother and stress-free, especially when the kids join in. And today, we're working with a double batch of ingredients. Since I'm not just baking for the video, but actually making my Christmas gifts, I need a big batch to cover all the gifting I do. If you're following along, keep in mind that if you're using a 5-quart tilt head mixer, it's best to do just one batch at a time. The dough can get quite thick and might be too much for a smaller mixer. I'm using a 7-quart KitchenAid stand mixer, which can handle the load a bit better. With everything prepped and ready, we're setting ourselves up for holiday baking success. Trust me, it'll make the process so much more enjoyable. All right, let's start with our dry ingredients. I find it so helpful to have everything laid out and ready to go, especially when baking something as special as gingerbread. So, grab a large mixing bowl and add each ingredient one at a time, really focusing on creating a smooth blend. This will make sure all the flavors come together perfectly in every cookie, giving you that classic warm gingerbread taste. We'll be adding flour, baking soda, salt, and of course all those wonderful spices that make gingerbread so memorable. First, we're adding 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Next, we'll add 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, which gives the cookies a nice gentle lift. Then, 1/2 teaspoon of salt to balance the sweetness. Now onto our spices. These are what make gingerbread truly special. Start with 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon. Then add 1 tablespoon of ground ginger for that classic warmth. Next, 3/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. A little goes a long way with this one. And finally, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg for just the right touch of cozy spice. These spices are what make gingerbread so iconic, filling the air with that rich holiday aroma that signals the season is here. Once everything's in the bowl, give it a good whisk to make sure all the spices blend evenly with the flour. You want a uniform mixture that smells incredible, even before baking. I like to use a hand whisk here to break up any lumps of flour or spices, but you can also sift everything if that's easier for you. Once it's all mixed and looking nice and even, go ahead and set the bowl aside. We'll come back to it soon to bring this gingerbread dough to life. Next, I'm moving to the wet ingredients. I start by cracking 1 large egg into a medium bowl. The egg helps bind everything together, giving the dough the structure it needs for easy rolling and cutting. Then, I add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I love the warmth and depth it brings, really enhancing the flavors of all those holiday spices. After that, I pour in a half cup of molasses. For me, this is the magic ingredient that makes gingerbread taste so rich and memorable. It adds that deep, earthy sweetness that balances perfectly with the spices, giving each cookie that classic flavor we all look forward to. Now it's time to whisk everything together. I like to take my time with this step, making sure everything is fully blended. Molasses can be thick and sticky, so I use a sturdy whisk and keep a steady rhythm as I mix. You'll know it's ready when the mixture is smooth, glossy, and flows easily off the whisk. If you still see any bits of egg or streaks of molasses, just keep going until it's perfectly even. Once everything's nice and smooth, I set this bowl aside for later. Just a quick reminder, the measurements I am sharing here are for a single batch, but I'm actually making a double batch because I need plenty of cookies for Christmas gifting. I've found it's easier to double everything from the start rather than making 2 separate single batches. This way, I can get all the dough I need in one go, which saves time and keeps things simple. If you're not making as many, you can stick with the single batch measurements I'm using here. First, set the wet ingredients aside, and let's get the standing mixer ready with the paddle attachment. Now, we're moving on to the butter and sugar, the foundation of our dough. In the bowl of your KitchenAid 7-quart bowl lift stand mixer, start by adding 3/4 of a cup of room temperature unsalted butter. It's important that the butter is soft, as this will help it blend smoothly with the sugar. Next, add 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. The brown sugar gives the cookies a lovely depth of flavor and a slight chewiness. Since I'm making a double batch here, I need to be careful because gingerbread dough is very thick. Using the paddle attachment, start mixing on a low speed and gradually increase to medium. This prevents your ingredients from flying out of the bowl and keeps everything contained. The KitchenAid 7-quart mixer is perfect for this because it can handle the thicker dough without breaking. Let them blend for about 2 to 3 minutes or until the mixture becomes light and fluffy. This step is key to achieving that tender, melt-in-your-mouth texture in each cookie. Once creamed, Your butter and sugar mixture should be smooth, airy, and ready for the next step in our recipe. Once the butter and sugar are perfectly creamed, it's time to bring in our wet ingredients. I carefully add the egg, molasses, and vanilla mixture into the bowl. Here's a little tip from me. I like to give the wet ingredients a quick stir first to ensure they're nicely combined before mixing them with the butter and sugar. This helps the flavors meld smoothly and avoids any pockets of molasses or egg. With everything in the bowl, I start mixing on a low speed just to get things going, and then gradually increase to medium. This keeps the ingredients from splattering and makes sure they blend together evenly. About halfway through, I pause to scrape down the sides of the bowl with a silicone spatula. This step is key because it pulls in any dough that may have stuck to the edges, making sure everything is incorporated smoothly. I let them mix for about a minute or so until the dough is fully combined, smooth and thick. By now, you'll start to smell the familiar warm gingerbread aroma wafting up. It's one of my favorite moments in baking, that rich molasses mingling with the spices to create that cozy holiday scent. This is when I know we're on the right track and that this dough is going to make some truly delicious cookies. I hope you're having as much fun making these chocolate-covered pretzels as I am. If you're enjoying this recipe, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss any more festive treats. Have you tried making chocolate-covered pretzels before? How did they turn out? Or maybe you have some favorite toppings or tricks. I'd love to hear your ideas in the comments. Thanks for hanging out with me. Now, let's dive back in and finish up these delicious pretzel rods. Now, it's time to bring in the dry ingredients. I add them gradually, about a third at a time. Here's a tip. Adding the flour mixture slowly not only prevents that dreaded flour cloud from dusting the entire kitchen, but it also gives my mixer a fighting chance. I keep the mixer on the lowest setting for this part because as the dough thickens up, I don't want to overwork my trusty mixer. It's already had its fair share of holiday baking marathons. After each addition, I let the mixer do its thing, then add the next third. By the time I add the last portion, the dough should be smooth, firm, and just the right consistency without being sticky. If it's still a bit tacky, I sprinkle in a little extra flour, a tablespoon at a time, until it's just right. This gentle, low-speed mixing helps the dough stay perfectly rollable, so you can cut out those cookie shapes. without any drama. Just good, clean edges ready for decorating. And remember, keep your mixer on low speed and let it take its time. Trust me, it'll get the job done without any need to rush. Just give it a little patience on low, and soon enough, that dough will come together beautifully. Once the dough is fully mixed and looking smooth, I carefully remove the bowl from the mixer, bracing myself. This thick dough loves to cling on for dear life. I grab my trusty silicone spatula to free the paddle from all that sticky goodness. I work the spatula around the edges, scooping off every last bit like it's gold. Because honestly, in the world of holiday cookies, it is. The spatula lets me get every crumb without making a mess. With the paddle finally dough-free, we're ready to roll, literally. Since a normal single batch would be divided into 2 portions, I'm working with a double batch here, so I'll end up with 5 dough discs instead. To portion the dough, I use a silicone spatula to scoop it directly onto pieces of food wrap. Instead of shaping the dough immediately, I loosely wrap each portion in plastic first. This little trick lets me handle the dough without getting it all over my hands. Once it's loosely wrapped, I gently press and shape each portion into a flat, round disc. No mess, no fuss. This method keeps the dough neatly contained, and I end up with 5 stackable discs ready for chilling. Flattening the dough into discs now not only saves time when rolling later, but also helps it chill more evenly. I wrap each disc tightly to prevent drying out, making it easy to stack them neatly in the fridge. I let the dough chill for at least an hour, a step that's essential for developing flavor and firming up the dough so it rolls out smoothly without sticking. If you're planning ahead or making cookies in advance, this dough freezes wonderfully. Just pop the wrapped discs into a freezer bag and they'll keep for up to 3 months. Here's a helpful tip. Label the bag with a Sharpie, including the date and type of dough, so you know exactly what's inside when you're ready to bake. When it's time to use the dough, simply let the discs thaw overnight in the fridge. This way, you'll have perfectly prepped dough ready for rolling whenever you need it. No last-minute scrambling during the holiday rush. Gifting for friends and family can get really expensive during the holiday season, and I know how hard it can be to find something unique and special for everyone without breaking the bank. That's why I love making homemade treats like gingerbread cookies. It's a personal, thoughtful way to show I care. By taking the time to make something by hand, I'm not only saving money, but also creating a one-of-a-kind gift that feels a bit more meaningful. Plus, I get to decorate each cookie with designs that remind me of each person's personality or favorite things, making each gift feel truly special. There's just something so warm and personal about a homemade gift. My friends and family know I put thought and love into each cookie, and that's a feeling no store-bought item can match. For a detailed look at how I package cookies for gifting, be sure to check out my video where I walk you through each step. From layering with parchment paper to adding festive touches, I'll show you exactly how to make your cookie gifts look beautiful and professional. Just head over to my cookie packaging video to see it all in action. And there you have it, our classic gingerbread cookie dough, ready to roll out and become holiday memories. Over the years, this dough has been the base for so many of our family's favorite shapes. Gingerbread men, stars, snowflakes, whatever fits the season or what the kids are excited about that year. The dough holds up beautifully to cutters, so each shape stays crisp and defined, even after baking. There's something special about seeing a whole tray of these cookies come together, each one careful cut and decorated. And here's a fun idea. You can also use this dough to make delicious gingerbread cookie sandwiches. Just bake the cookies, fill them with a sweet cream or frosting, and sandwich them together for a festive treat. I'll be showing you exactly how to make those in my next video, so stay tuned. This recipe has truly become a tradition in our home, not just for the cookies, but for the memories we make together in the kitchen. The laughter over too much icing, the warm smell of spices, and the joy of baking together. I hope you'll give this recipe a try and maybe start a holiday tradition of your own. Thanks for joining me in the kitchen today. Happy baking, and may this recipe bring as much joy to your home as it has to mine.